In 1984, a man named Kirk Bloodsworth was convicted of murder and sentenced to death in Maryland. He spent 9 years on death row. Then a DNA test proved that he was innocent. According to the Washington Post, he was the first death row inmate in U.S. history that was exonerated by DNA. The real killer had been free the entire time. Today I want to convince you that no one should be executed in this country without a mandatory DNA evidence review first. This system has condemned innocent people to die. If a tool exists that can confirm guilt or reveal innocence before an execution, we have a responsibility to use it. I will cover why the problem is real and what the solution looks like, and what changes when we get it right. Let's start with how serious the problem actually is. Innocent people have been sentenced to death, and the current system does not do enough to stop it. The death penalty is supposed to be reserved for the worst of the worst. The evidence shows it has been applied to people who do not commit the crime. Garrett's book, Convicting the Innocent, published by Harvard University Press in 2011, studied the first 250 wrongful convictions overturned by DNA. The same patterns kept showing up: coerced confessions, unreliable eyewitness testimony, and flawed forensics. These are common factors in death penalty cases. Daniel Medwed's 2017 book, Wrongful Convictions and the DNA Revolution, documents over 300 cases where DNA cleared innocent prisoners in the U.S. Several were on death row. In some cases, executions were carried out before DNA testing was completed. This is not rare, it is a pattern. When the punishment is death, a pattern of error is unacceptable. Now that we understand the problem, let's talk about what a real solution looks like. Requiring mandatory DNA review before any execution would create a reliable checkpoint before it is too late to fix a mistake. This policy already has support in the research. The question is whether it should be a national standard. A 2018 peer-reviewed study by Wixted, Mix, and Fisher in Perspectives on Psychological Science found that eyewitness memory is unreliable when contaminated or improperly tested. DNA evidence is scientifically validated and consistent. Mandating a review would catch cases where human error led to the wrong verdict. The National Institute of Justice confirms that DNA profiling follows a rigorous 6-step process, including extraction, quantitation, amplification, and quality assurance review. It produces reliable results that courts can act on. We already have the science. We just need a policy that requires it before the execution is carried out. Let's look at what happens when that policy is in place. When mandatory DNA review is required, innocent people go free and guilty people face real accountability. These are not hypotheticals. Real cases show exactly what happens when DNA evidence enters the process. Kirk Bloodsworth case, reported by the Washington Post in 2003, shows that DNA review does not just clear the innocent, it leads to the actual perpetrator. After Bloodsworth was exonerated, DNA linked the real killer to the crime. In 1996, according to the National Institute of Justice, DNA linked Gerald Parker to 5 murders in California. That same evidence proved that Kevin Lee Green had been wrongfully convicted of one of those crimes. Green had already served 16 years. DNA gave him back his life and gave those victims' families the truth. Mandatory DNA review does not slow down justice. It makes sure that justice is actually happening. Now that you can see what's possible, let me tell you what you can do about it. Today I covered 3 things. First, the need. Innocent people have been sentenced to death in this country. Second, the solution. Mandatory DNA review before any execution takes place. And third, the results. When DNA is used, innocent people go free and real justice follows. The death penalty is the one punishment you cannot take back. If we are going to use it, we owe it to every defendant and every victim to make sure that we get the right person. No one should be executed in this country without a mandatory DNA evidence review first. I am not asking you to be against the death penalty. I am asking you to believe that before we use it, we should be certain. Kirk Bloodsworth spent 9 years on death row for a crime that he did not commit. DNA is what saved him. Not everybody gets that chance. Support legislation that makes DNA review mandatory in every capital case before an execution date is set. That science exists, and the only question is whether we have the will to use it. Thank you.